There we go. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the timeline shift that we've had happen over the past about week and a half, because it's drastically altering how we may be experiencing the concept of time and showing up. And it's also going to really ask us to step into what we know in an even bigger way, not even just being self-accountable, but actually living from the understanding that we are in a non-linear universe, abiding by a constructed concept of life and death and time, etc. Now, what happened is last weekend, it started over Saturday, carried over in through Sunday, is a lot of the trauma timelines that were being held separate in people's fields from the Atlantean era, with all the technology and the landslips and the power grabs and the different factions that were going on and yada yada, it integrated. We had enough beings on the planet catch that timeline all at once that I bet if you guys even try to go in now and find trauma in Atlantis, you shouldn't be able to go in and have an emotional surge. Why? Because that whole timeline has been pulled up into now. And so we've had this concept that some of us in the channeling community have been talking for a while about, that Atlantis was rising. And for a long time, people thought that, well, it's going to emerge out of the sea. All of a sudden, this place is going to come up. We're going to see these temples and these power centers and these villages just go whoop up out of the bottom of the ocean, out of nowhere. And Atlantis will be back. And here's all these different beings. And that's how exposure will happen. Well, I'm lovingly going to say that I don't think that's how that was supposed to go down. And I think that what we saw with this timeline slip and it finally integrating into so many people's realities is what we're actually experiencing instead. Now, why is this important? This is important because a lot of what happened into Atlantis is what's literally happening right now. What happened in the Orion Wars is literally happening right now. It is the war of ideologies. Of I'm right, you're wrong, she's light, he's evil. Right? This is good magic, that's black magic. Trust in this deity, don't trust in yourself. Like all these ideologies that are in polarities to one another, where somebody finally came over an edge and said, I got it. I'm the most powerful, I'm strongest, I can get people to follow in, listen, whatever it is. And that's what we're experiencing now. If you guys think about this, if you really step back and think about this, who's loudest right now? Is it the people that are awakened and understanding what's going on multiple levels? Or is it the people that are still doing the dominion wars and the duality dance? Right? So what we're seeing is this concept of, you know, I don't like using these words, but this is what's common lingo. You guys might have heard this before. We're seeing this concept of two earths. It's like the reality that I'm going to use myself. I don't want to say we because you can test in where you're playing with this most of the time. The reality where I live most of the time in my head, in my energy field, is not full of drama trauma. And it's not in a space where, you know, politics matter and all of these things are coming into my field and steering which direction I go and what I do or don't do. My reality is that I really am into this idea of quantum physics, not linear mathematical physics, where I'm experiencing what it means to manifest instantaneously or to have things come to me as if by magic, and, you know, playing with the money magic this way, playing with, you know, right now, I'll tell you guys a little, the next one I'm working on. My next one is a 40 to 80 acre river or lakefront property to build a retreat center on so that I can have a collective place to, instead of you guys going to hotels and shitty Airbnbs, we just come out to the retreat and we go out there to do our learning and experiences. So that's what I'm working on manifesting now. And because I'm manifesting it now, I already have it. And I can already feel it and I can already plan it and I can already draw the people in. And because I'm doing that, it will come into my physical reality in a very short amount of time. Okay. What does this mean for you? This means we have to really look at what does it mean to truly be ready to be open on all of these dimensional frequencies. Now, what we need to get to before we can really stay open is the space of being uncorruptible, incorruptible, whatever the word is. Okay. The frick does that mean? Oh, Denise, you're making funny sounds this morning. There we go. What does that mean? Uncorruptible. It means that no matter what you read, no matter what you see, no matter what gets thrown at your way energetically, whether it's a psychic attack or not, nothing from the external environment should be able to disrupt the internal environment. So remember when we started with decodes, we started with this concept of homeostasis, right? Let's go back. We talked about homeostasis and how it was the body's balancing act and how it was able to maintain function in response to external stimulus. So temperature changes, foods that were coming from outside to in, relationships, where we live, blah, 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 those all impact our homeostasis. But what if none of it had to impact homeostasis? What if you could get to the point in your development that it didn't matter what you ate, what you consumed, who you talked to, what environment you were in, anything, and you were able to maintain your thriving point? Now, homeostasis is only relevant for beings that are not able to stay centered in themselves. So think about this, you guys, over the course of the last couple of weeks. How many things have pulled you off your rails or pissed you off or gotten you into such a spin that you cry about it, you get angry about it, or you're confused about it, or your stomach gets upset? And hey, I'm guilty too. Please do not think that I am perfect, because I am not. I got down a really deep rabbit hole like 3 weeks ago. Steve was pretty sure I was going to lose my ever-loving mind. Took me a little while to get out of it. And he's like, phew, glad you're back, because that was scary. I was corruptible in my fourth dimensional frequency at that time. And because I was corruptible and I was allowing all of this information to come in my field, and I was allowing the visceral reactions they were hoping for through the writing, through the charge, through the intentions to come into my field and actually hit me that way, I had the exact results that it was supposed to create. Fear, IBS, wonder if my own immune system was enough, questioning my reality. I don't know if any of you, actually Dale and I had this conversation. Did any of you guys get the little hint of death programming that came with some of the conspiracy theorists? I can't even talk this morning. Conspiracy theorist stuff that came out a couple of weeks ago, where you're like, oh my God, why am I even staying on this earth plane? Did anybody else have that? Or questioning like what your reality is? I had a little bit of that come into my field. Now here's what I'm also going to say. There is value in the valleys. Because sometimes when we drop all the way down, especially for me, because sometimes I feel like what I'm experiencing in my physical reality isn't relatable anymore to a lot of people. And so for me to go all the way down there and experience and feel what other people were feeling was extremely valuable, because I could not empathize with the masses. Like, I couldn't even find a shred of compassion for a little bit of what people were experiencing. And so going into that valley had a lot of value for me, because it helped me to understand what everybody else's bodies, minds, and hearts were doing. So we also have to remember that sometimes when we have these highs and lows, it's a reminder point or a teaching point to help us deliver, teach, guide, support better. Now, with all of this that's come, we're in a turning point right now. We are going to see huge numbers, you guys, of deaths between now and 2024. Huge. Not because these people didn't plan their exit strategies. They did. They've chosen to go out at this time because either they're not going to come up higher with the rest of us, or they've come up high enough that they don't need to keep going. They've done what their job was, or they have contracted themselves to the drama of the scenarios of this changing of the guard, changing of the consciousness. We are going to see a mass exodus of people. And if we watch death statistics over the next 4 years, we're going to see, I would bet, about a doubling. Seriously, it's going to be a lot. This first part of the virus, you guys, Trish, we can't say yes or no to anybody. It's their contract. It's their contract. And while I love you so much, if your mom and dad kick it, I'm going to open a portal for them, send them a hug, send them on their way, and then they can choose whether they want to come back or not. Right? And then I'll send you a big energetic hug and be like, sorry. I don't have a mom and dad, so, whatever. I'm like, I can hold space for yours. I got room for your mommy and daddy. We are going to see a lot of people really show us what they're made of. So if you guys have parents, for example, that are still highly bigoted or are stuck in really old paradigm energy streams or are into like hardcore religion or hardcore politics, we might see them as elderly people, if they don't have a ton of time left in human time, exit this planet between 2020 and 2024. There is a reason that this virus is highly targeting and taking out people in that age demographic. There's a reason it is not touching the star kids. So let's have a conversation about that. Most of us here on this call are over 40 years old. There's a little small faction of us that are, in our 30s and below, but most of us are over 40 years old. Your age group are like the watchers right now. You're kind of the supervisors, making sure that the people in your circles, in your environments, just kind of hold their cool, walk their talk, do what they're doing, show up, don't lose your shit. This is what's happening. Okay. Some of us in this younger age range, we are the shaker-uppers. We're coming out with these loud voices saying, hey, listen up. This is what's coming through. These are the channels. This is what's happening. This is what's ushering in. These are the dimensional planes that are being affected. This is how we need to show up. But these star kids are something else entirely. They're already living the new world reality. And so this virus isn't, nor is it ever going to really touch them. I mean, don't get me wrong. If one of these children has come in and is still in an old paradigm body with old paradigm karmic shit hanging on, and they've got like lupus or leukemias or cancers or already got these things in their body, they might get taken out in this period of time if they happen to catch it, if that's part of their destiny. But the star kids will not. I've been sitting in channeling every day because I was like, I gotta get back into this habit. I had gotten really lazy about it, like really not in my rituals, really not in that space of like being connected every day, because it was just too much. Like between doing sessions with people every day, doing the channelings every day, navigating the questions people have about the news, holding the tribe up, I was like, it's just too much. And then I went, too much by whose standards? By whose standards? Because it ain't mine. I'm really good at doing it all. So what is this? And as I started reconnecting, one of the questions that I really wanted to go into was, what is this concept of what we're moving into as the next step in human evolution? Like, because I was on the fence, like, is this a big experiment still with this here? Is this, something the aliens are planting and watching and blah, blah, blah. And as I was going in, and please track into this for yourself, because who knows if I am right. As I was going into this for myself, one of the things I really felt is we're already here. They're already here. We're just living in different dimensions than most of the population. Most of them can't see us, can't talk to us, can't hear us. Is it an experiment? A little bit. Because you know what we've done on this Earth plane? Something that we haven't done on other planets. We haven't touched genetics from one species to another to see what comes out on the other side. We haven't taken a reptilian being and a dinosaur DNA and matched them together to see what comes out. We haven't taken a pig heart in the galaxy and thrown it into a human body. We do that here because we're looking at what happens when we cross species match, and it's been going on forever. Time is irrelevant on the other side. So I can't say to you, well, 32 million years ago on this star named, it's not quite how it works in the galaxy. There isn't linear time how we experience it. But in our minds, long ago, one of the things that we started doing as beings was we started delineating. We went from example being a dragon and cross-morphing and coming down into different forms, or cross-morphing going into different collectives, because we learned how to quantum leap, how to take our energy field and, let's use a really simple word. We used how to portal over to another type of body or energy and imbue it with our essence so that we could become, learn, understand, and add those energetics to our toolkit. In a way, this is exactly what multi-dimensional acceleration is. Except we're doing it ass backwards here on this planet. Because instead of us going into just another form, like if I wanted to jump into a dragon right now, on the other side, typically what I would do is I would exit this body and I would step into dragon form. But in human, we have something really cool. We have the ability to go and grab that form and bring it in here. And this is the only time in galactic heritage that we have enough imprinting, dimensional fields, and DNA to be able to carry the energetic essence from almost every single galactic brother and sister cosmic starfield force on this entire universal plane. Humans are the first beings ever to be able to jump into every single different collective if they allow that information into their field. That's wild. Go talk to your team about that if you don't believe me. Your Arcturian friends will tell you that they stay Arcturian, and if they want to leave that, they can't just take their consciousness and connect to the Andromedans. They don't do that. They can go into telepathic communication, but they can't just go become that and pull the data. That blew my mind. I can do that. You can do that. So if we can do that, and they can't, why are we playing so small and into this fear grid down here when we literally have access to every single layer of dimension and information that's ever been on this entire universal plane? It's crazy to me. It's mind-blowing to me. Okay, so there was the first part of the channeling that I want to share with you guys. The next part of this channeling was part of the job of this virus. Now, if we go back to 1918, when the Spanish flu ripped through and millions upon millions of people exited, what came after 1918? Essentially, it was the start of our big farming and industrial revolutions. It was a shift in consciousness. The humans were ready to step up their technology and to figure out how to work with a new level of information. But the ones who couldn't come with that, the ones who were fighting to go back to pilgrimage, to go back to a simpler way of life, to go back to these very, very simple principles that deny quantum physics, which is what exists beyond this plane, exited. They left the planet. When they came back through these bodies, they went through the other side and they come back through. They come back with the DNA understanding from the parent being who is able to keep up. We're doing it again. Now we have COVID-19, where people who are not ready to deal with the impending changes in how science, how medicine, how technology is going to work. And I'm not talking about tracking devices in our injections, you guys. I'm talking about how we're going to go back into some of the principles of plant and light medicine, sound medicine on a quantum field. That's what's coming. That's what's coming. And everybody who can't handle that, who wants to sit in their fields with hand plows to do their vegetables this way, is going to get left behind. The people whose minds cannot expand or allow themselves to download the information to get ahead are going to get left behind. They're going to choose to exit because their DNA has not been updated enough, crystallized enough to come to the next consciousness shift. So yes, while this virus has partially been engineered in the lab, and there are some things that are being done with it to weaponize it, the virus was coming anyways, you guys. The virus was coming anyways, because if it wasn't that, it was going to be massive earthquakes and floods, and that would have taken out some of the people that needed to stay. Yes, I got the virus. So did Samantha Frisk. Both of us will tell you that being in that virus gave us an amazing perspective of what's happening to these bodies. Now, mine fought it off in a very short amount of time. I went down and was back up within a couple of days because I could see what was happening internally in my body after the first day of fever. And I will tell you what was so interesting, and Sam will share her perspective too. Faith had it in her house as well. What happened in my body was that it activated all levels and all layers where I still had death programming running. And it showed me that I had cleaned up every single one of my exit strategies because my body wasn't going anywhere, nor was my soul. I'm meant to be here as a part of this shift. So my friends, it doesn't fucking matter if you get the virus. Go outside and lick the handrails for all I care. You know how to track into your bodies. You know how to come into the collective. You know how to take vitamin C, okay? We know how to do these things. It doesn't matter if you get the virus. All you're going to get when you go in there is the download as to whether you've cleaned up all of your exit strategies and the death programming. Because if you haven't, every layer where you're still running it will come to you with this virus. And it's going to say, are you staying closed and in the third and fourth dimension, or are you coming with us? That was not supposed to happen. So here's what's interesting about this. This is what I've been tracking on the other side with a bunch of my team. That wasn't supposed to happen. The people who were awake, what they were trying to weaponize on the other side was that ability to have any sort of cognizance while you are sick. It was supposed to take you out and numb your mind out. In fact, if you guys look at some of the deficit statistics that are coming out of the medical community today, they're seeing hydroencephalitis, which is the brain swelling. They're seeing people with memory loss. They're seeing cognitive delays. They're seeing neurological problems throughout the body. It was meant to flatline the brain so that you numbed out. But it's having an opposite effect on the light workers and the teachers. We are getting it and we're closing out our third and fourth Akashic loops. Like, that's fucking wild. That's wild. So, why have I been on your guys' asses to do your work? Stay on top of these things. Don't go down the rabbit holes. Make sure if you're going to go down, you have a way to get back up. Because if you've done your work and you've cleaned out your stuff, it doesn't matter if you're going to get sick. You're going to get a fever for 2 days. You're going to cough. You're going to get a tiny little bit of pneumonia if you don't hit yourself with the drugs fast enough, meaning your vitamin C's and your homeopathics. And you're going to be fine. But you're going to be a little cranky and you're going to have some spiritual cleanup to do on the other side if you haven't done it prior. Now, we're stepping in to a world where quantum physics leads. quantum healing leads. And what is quantum physics built on? The idea that time no longer exists, and what happens in the now is happening over here in the future and in the past, and that every action has a direct consequence and reaction and ripple right now. Yes, Jess, absolutely upgrades your DNA, totally. Quantum physics means that I can send something from my own body, my own mouth, my own ears, my own heart, as fast over to you as somebody could call up on a cell phone, if not faster. It means that there is no longer a delay in data. So now let's think about why it's been weaponized. If we have this 1% of the population that has been looking to maintain control through a monetary system for how long? Money and oil, right? It's been money and oil is the game. And all of a sudden, we as humans do this massive upgrade, and we understand that energy no longer needs to come from fossil fuels, and it's literally free, and all we have to do is flip the technology. Have any of you guys ever charged your cell phone with your hands before? Because I have. You know, you can start playing with quantum physics now. And what's going to happen, because so many people are going to wake up and come on board, it doesn't matter what those elites do, because there's a bigger population that's going to push forward the new paradigm of what's happening. Now, could they change the game? Could they try and put a cost on you standing out in the sun and getting a battery upgrade? Sure, they could try. But if we think about numbers for a quick moment, if we think about numbers, there's like maybe 2,000 of them total worldwide who really are into this scheme. I'm talking the rich royal families who have been playing this game for a long time, maybe 2,000. And there's billions of grid workers. There's billions still asleep. But there's billions to a couple thousand. So what happens when the billions upgrade? Because they're awake, they're watching, they're paying attention, they're connecting their dots, they're seeing what's happening. What happens when the billions start to wake? The game over here has to change, because they no longer are going to have energetic control. They are still using the frequencies of fear, time, and lack, right? Fear, time, and lack to control the population. But once the population wakes up to the fact that, oh, I actually don't need to be in fear, I'm an infinite being. Once the population wakes up to the fact that nothing can really control their internal environment unless they let it, what happens? The stronghold leaves. That's what we're moving towards in these next 4 years. And if you guys think this first 2 months of this has been tough, my friend, pull up a non-alcoholic beer. We've got 4 years of this to get through, and it's going to be a magnificent ride if you let it. But if your attitude is, what the fuck, this sucks, everything's awful, my friend, check into your exit strategies. You might want to use it, because it's going to be a tough time. Hope you stay. Understand if you go. I will open a portal and send you an energetic hug. See you next time. Okay, now that we've got that cleared the air, how do you guys need to shift? Where are you still corruptible? Is it hearing government news? Is it hearing about the pedo and Pizzagate shit? Is it, everybody in the grocery store wearing the masks and you're walking around just being like, oh my God, this is awful and scary and freaky? Like, where are you still corruptible and not actually tuning into everything you understand no channel can get from your teams and walking your talk? Where are you squashing down your field to match and vibrate and live in the third and fourth dimensional frequency that everybody else wants to hang out in? Now, I love you guys, but how many of you can honestly say you've had your entire 12th dimensional frequency open this entire quarantine? I can't say that. I had at least 2 weeks where I was being a shithead. Okay? I had at least 2 weeks of that. But I'll tell you what I never shut down. I never shut down my heart gateway. And that is the one that even when all this stuff gets to you, if you can keep your 5th dimensional lens and your 8th dimensional lens open, your heart and your crown, your hormonal, right? All of this. If you can keep those open, you can observe everything. But as long as you remember to ask the questions about where does this connect? Where do I go to? What's the levels of perceptions of truth? And what is the bigger picture? You are helping to anchor in the new reality. But my friend, if you are taking your field and you are shutting down, you're not using your gifts, you are not looking at the bigger picture, you are forgetting that you can travel through all of these different directions, you're not talking to your team, my friend, you are no better than the 1% because you're amplifying their field. The only job we have as grid weavers right now, as decoders, as healers, is to keep possibility, choice, and expansion open. That is our only job, you guys. That's it. It's not about you getting on YouTube and being like, and fuck Bill Gates, and oh my God, look at what Trump is doing. And there's enough of those. QAnon's got that covered. Okay? They got that covered. We don't need to do that. The only thing we have to do, this is it. This is our entire responsibility, and it's going to come in a ton of different forms. Your heart has to stay open. The understanding and perceptions of levels and layers of truth, all the way from the individual ego to the God mind, right? So the idea that I am, all is connected, and everything in between has to stay open. And the ability to see that there is a greater shift happening than what most people can even mentally comprehend right now, that's it. I can do that while homeschooling my kids. I can do that while climbing a tree fort. I can do that while scooping up dog poop. I can do that while reading a conspiracy theory letter. I can do that while doing a session. I can do that while teaching a class. That's my only role. And it's going to come out in a bunch of different forms. Today, it's telling it to you guys and giving you guys the activation, which I can feel a ton of you guys taking, which is really super fun. Tomorrow, it might come in the form of me actually going live on my Facebook business page and saying, hey, guys, listen up. This is our only role we have as grid weavers. Are you doing it? Maybe I'm going to repeat it to the masses. Maybe I put it on YouTube and it gets shared globally. I don't know. And I don't have to know. I just have to follow my intuition, my inspiration, the creativity, and the energy of what can people hear right now and what's going to contribute to the flow of all beings. It's not my job to go and take anybody out right at this time. I mean, don't get me wrong, myself and some other grid weavers are working on that. We've been working on clearing some of the negative entities in some of these political leaders. We have been working on closing some portals. We are doing some really interesting things with some of the underground bunkers. It's been fascinating, but that's not my primary. That is an accessory because I know how to do it and I can support what we're doing to help clear out and usher in the new reality. The way you parent your kids right now speaks to, are you playing old or new paradigm? Okay, you have to play with this. Okay, get off my soapbox. Strokes, yeah. I woke up with the thought of time is not linear a couple weeks ago. Already knew this. Interesting to wake up with that. Yeah, it happened last Saturday that majority of the light worker population, it finally clicked, which is really cool. That people really went, oh my gosh, we are in a time continuum. This is cool. And people did a huge quantum leap. And I saw a huge faction of people come out from the fear game and the linear game and come up into the new reality sphere. So they're playing with the tools they want to anchor in. So that's really awesome. New layer of playing aloof if we don't watch the crap because we know it pulls our energy down. Look, if you can't watch it because it pulls you down, it means you're corruptible. So if you can't watch a segment of the news without losing your ever-loving mind, that's a problem. Because what happens when you're in the grocery store checkout and the woman in front of you is like, and right? It's going to hit you. It's going to hit you because it's the same thing. So you got to clean it up. You got to figure out, why is this moving me? Is it a trauma? Is it a drama? Is it a judgment? Is it an addiction to staying in a linear time physical realm? Figure it out. You got to dig into these things. You should be able to watch an entire segment of the news without having a big reaction. You should be able to watch it as an observer. You should be able to go in the QAnon boards and read every single post without wanting to punch somebody in the face. True fact. You should be able to listen to Donald Trump and Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birdface. She crazy. Without losing your mind. You should be able to observe and track behind their words. You should be able to listen behind the words of our prime ministers and our premiers. What are they saying? What's actually happening behind the toed lines that they can't share outwardly? Who's got a muzzle on them? You should be able to track that without a reaction. If you can't, you need to look into why. Is it the collective that's speaking through them? That could be a big one, because we have our biggest triggering collectives of all time working through this whole thing, trying to hold the power graph, but there's less of them and more of us, right? Maybe it's the collective. Maybe it's the idea of your freedom being taken away from you. So one of the things that gets me a little riled for humanity is when somebody tries to go and take somebody else's power. But you know what? It shouldn't, because it's their choice to give their power away. It's their choice, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There's situations that are really nasty. Like, we want to go back to Second World War and talk about the Jewish concentration camps. Not much choice there. There was not much for individual choice outwardly. But there was internally. And some of the stories that came out on the other side of how people maintained their peace and how they maintained their ability to just love all beings and how they were able to observe and see what was going on, that's what they had control over. Because at the end of the day, if we truly understood everything we've been taught, not only with me, but every metaphysical teaching you've ever gone through, if we truly understood that we are immortal beings, it really doesn't fucking matter what happens to this physical body. It matters what I choose to store in my blueprint, in my records, and in my travels. So even if, and I will tell you guys, like, I don't see this happening at this time, even if the elite manage to get their plans through and they manage to inject and activate everybody with these microchips, even if they tried to numb out the population with particular frequencies coming from some of these 5G waves, which, haha, jokes on them. If anybody's watched the Schumann resonance, the Earth is just rebutting. I love it. They try to go higher and the Earth's like, okay, I'll come up again. Now your frequency is not going to work like that. Sorry. The entire Earth is actually vibrating at the same vibration as shungite right now. And shungite is what blocks the EMF radiation coming off of 5G towers. And it's been doing this for 3 days straight. You can't tell me that the elite are going to be able to keep coming up with that. You know why? Because their minds are so limited and they're only playing with physical space and time. We are in for the ride of our lives, my friends. Ride of our lives. Took it last night, this morning, working my body up to not having my pump anymore. I won't need it. Yes. Thank you. So excited for that. So excited for that. Can hardly wait to see the results. Yeah. Don't know what. Yeah, and you don't have to enjoy watching it, but it's a test. Can you do it? Can you pay attention to what the people you're having to help are plugging into? Because if you can't, how are you going to hold a session? Because that's what their whole field is made up of right in that moment. Right? Was writing the word triggered and kept writing the word triggered. Well, that's the game right now. Can I trick you into becoming a dumb human again? Can we go backwards? Because you know what part of the population wants right now? They want to get rid of all technology. They want to go back to homesteading where there's no TV, there's no internet, there's no cell phones. Everybody get their seeds, get on the land. Let's just have communes in these little pockets. Let's not connect globally where all this information is worldwide. Take out the airplanes while you're at it. Right? They want to go back to when times were simple. But you guys, if that's where we're going back, how do we ground in quantum physics? How do we ground in this concept that space and time no longer exist? Don't get me wrong, I love growing my own plants. Like, I got my own little greenhouse started in here. The new box Steve built me is going in outside. It should be done, like, probably by the time I'm done this. I love that. Because I love being with the earth. I love being able to feed myself. I love being able to talk to these guys and share with them and nurture them. I love that. But you know what's going to happen with our gardening and our farming? Huge changes in the next 4 years. If you aren't already mostly plant, whole food based, start. Because you are going to see a major disruption to the meat chains coming. Huge. Get on board, baby, because it's happening. We're going to see vegetables and crops grown much differently. We're going to see mostly hydroponic so that we're not taking up huge masses of wild earth anymore. Smaller areas to feed denser populations. Okay? We are going to see better concentrations coming in our food because quantum physics is going to be able to catch up with the fact that planting these same crops in the same fields over and over again is robbing the nutrients and it's robbing us of our core physical blocks. They are starting to go, well, if we go to hydroponics, this is why most of you who eat at farmers markets that go year round, they're using hydroponics already. You feel better because you have better quality of nutrition in your food. We're going to see that coming. We're going to see massive amounts of advancements coming with solar and wind and water energy that are not going to hurt our planet. So right now, solar fields are still hurting our planet. They're putting in masses of them, but they're making it really hot there. So the ecosystem around it is dying. Birds can't live in those environments. Like, it's still, even though we're taking one source of energy and we're transmuting and putting in another, it's still creating a negative effect in our perception to the planet. Now, you want to give her an energy, Mama Gaia, it doesn't matter. We are just a blip in time. Humans have been, coming here and using this planet for all sorts of things. And if we want to look at her as if she is suffering, she's not. She could wipe us out in an instant if she wanted to. She could get rid of our problem in an instant if she wanted to. That's not the plan. The plan is for us to perceive in our old savior complexes the destruction and to continue reaching towards quantum physics to fix it. It's fucking brilliant, right? It's brilliant. Guys, we got to speed up and expand our brains. We got to stop being so slow. We got to stop, limiting our imaginations because it's coming. Hydroponics is old. It didn't catch up because people are slow, right? So we're going to play a little bit this week because obviously in Healers Rising, we're doing all this work with our guides and, working on connecting with all these beings on all layers and all levels. But this week, honey, it's not about you. It's not about you. And when you go in, you need to stop asking about the dumb shit between you and your mom. Nobody frickin' cares. That's old paradigm crap. When you go in and you're like to your Andromedan friends, how should I heal this cord between me and Betsy Lou? They're just like, cool. Keep playing the death programming game. This is how you do it. You guys, you're ready to quantum leap beyond this. Listen to what I'm about to say, freak out later. You know how when you guys come into my field and you've often asked me about like chords, contrasts, walk-ins, all these things, and then if you're ever, there's none, there's never any there, because I'm not playing that game anymore. Now don't think. Everybody get on your axis really quick. Right now, ask your body to show you what it feels like to quantum leap into the next new world vibration where we don't play 4D games. Go past chords and contracts. Go past the Akashics. Ask your body to go fast enough that it's no longer relevant. Now, what most of you are going to do, because your brain's addicted to it, when you come out of this and you leave this class, you're going to hold this for a little while, and then you're going to get triggered by somebody. And you're going to go back into your old patterns, and you're going to be like, so-and-so did this, and it hurt my feelings like that, and this is how I feel, this is what we're going to do, because this is what we've had to do till now, right? It appeased a certain level of self. And you guys, it's still going to appease most of the clients you work on because they're not ready to quantum leap. You have to be fairly clear to get there. Some of you guys are going to have a way easier time than others doing this. Some of you guys are really entrenched still in the 4D reality, and that's okay. The more you practice, the easier it's going to get. But when that shit comes up, Dale, let's use your mom scenario. Who the frick dang cares? Like, if you know that the world that's coming on the other side of this, like literally we are in the next 4 years of starting to anchor this in, was all about quantum physics and no longer relied on ancestral drama, is your mother relevant? It doesn't matter. You guys, your mother is now a downgrade to your DNA. Your friend chords and playing with those and really turning them over are now a downgrade to your DNA in the same way that consuming alcohol, smoking pot, all of these things are a downgrade to your DNA. We gotta leap past it. So your job this week is to look at who and what type of work you are still addicted to and clear it. If you're obsessed with taking out tech, clear it. If you're obsessed with the chords you find, clear it. If you're obsessed with mirrors and other people, clear it. Because we can go faster now. It's not about you anymore. Right now, it's a we game. And if you're still focused on the ego mind and you're not clearing that quickly on your own with very little drama, my friend, you're missing the quantum leap. Okay? So, find out where you are addicted. Is it still to a particular control drama? There's some of you guys in here that still use them frequently. That's okay. There's value in the valleys. Maybe you are now using it new level, new devil. But if you don't recognize it, if you can't see yourself pulling people's energy, that's a problem. Because we have to become our own self-generating source. So homework piece number 2 is to find ways to practice being your own self-generating energy source. For me, I am out in our river valley on our nature trails outside a minimum of 2 hours every single day. Minimum. I'm lucky that I have that right beside me, and I am lucky right in this time that the rules are lax enough around here that we have free movement of bodies as long as we are 2 meters apart. But I go outside because when I'm outside, I can very clearly figure out my generating source because I can tap into nature, I can tap into the trees and tap into the river. I can do all of that out there very, very quickly. And I can figure out the instant I walk into that bush if I am in sync or not. Here's how. If you guys have a natural area around you, and I mean, those of you guys that live fairly local to me, come on over. I'll take you into the trees. We'll just meet down there because there ain't no peace officers there. I'll just tell you that right now. When you go into the forest and it stays alive, you are on your axis. When you go into the forest and it stays alive and the birds are still chirping and the squirrels are still doing their thing, and you can still hear see all the leaves moving and turning and nothing stills, you are coming in a minimum of a 1 through 5 dimensional frequency. If you walk into that forest and the birds leave and the chipmunks are scared and the insects stop and the leaves quit moving and there's no longer organic flow, there's something wrong in your field. There's something wrong in your field. I use this to help my kids reset. So those of you with children, we talk about how the forest comes alive with us when we are coming with an open heart. That's how we describe it. And we describe it as when we're able to see the beauty of what's around us, even when it's brown, even when there's mud, even when there's leaves on the ground, even when it's not green, when we can find the beauty in it and we come with an open heart and an open mind, the forest stays alive for us. And so we go in and we work on self and we work on gratitude and we work on where am I shutting myself down? And all that work, once we get into that land on that level, happens telepathically between me and my family. What happens audibly out of my mouth is our joy when we find something cool, like a little tunnel that something must have dug. Or today we found these amazing mushrooms growing off a fallen tree that looked like a stadium that fairies and something would use to speak. It was just so cool. I wish I could have climbed on the other side to get a good picture of it. Audibly, our observations come out of our mouth about the things we're excited about, but telepathically, we're constantly working on self. And no, I don't pull it from nature because that's not the point. There are people that still need to go out and put their back on a tree to learn how to ground themselves. That's energy matching. And the tree won't do that unless it feels it wants to be a contribution. How many trees have people gone up to and they feel nothing? Number one, they probably didn't ask. Number two, that tree might not desire to be a contribution if that person doesn't truly come in with an open heart and a space of saying, hey, I'm willing to receive. I don't ask nature to give me anything. It's not obligated to add to my experience. It's my job to come in and choose my experience beside nature. And when I come in and I choose my experience and how I'm going to show up, and it's choosing its nature and its experience and how it's going to show up, then we can start telepathically communicating about what we're experiencing together. Okay, so it's not about taking. There is no taking in a higher dimensional frequency. There is no taking in quantum physics. You're not taking one number from this equation and pushing it over there. It doesn't work like that. You are your own vortex. You are your own energy field. And you have to learn to create that from the inside out. And it starts by becoming uncorruptible on all layers, all levels. And it's a work in progress because we're indoctrinated with this stuff all the time. All the freaking time. All right. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop this recording because